As a person of eyes, I presume, of sound mind and of reasonable self-judgment, I must assume that of all the things I have found online and on the YouTube internet site, that there seems to be irrefutable and large amounts of so-called evidence and reasoning of the so-called flat earth and the Mandela effect to have in some effect some evidence. Such as of the Mandela effect is concerned, there is some evidence to show that the theory of the effects of CERN is actually a physical truth, and I have seen that for many people there is a subtle 10% difference to the surrounding area of space, so spatial awareness, of that a specific number of people upon this physical planet understand and can discover most or mainly the 10% difference of this world compared to the old Earth theory. Plus, others have counted that the different physical makeup of our anatomy has physically and mentally changed, which could be a factor of a different planetary mix of chemicals and compounds with slight subtle differences, that such old Earth people know information about the previous planet that is different than this one. The makeup of this planet is extremely close to our own, but as I aforementioned, the differences were subtle and hiding in the shadows with our bone structure. As a species, there is defining characteristics such as no back plating in the backs of our eye sockets, plus the strange and unknowable reason of the purpose for the extra bones behind the neck, plus the movement of the spinal column, which I may add is in a clearly different position and is further away from the back of the head. The other reason for this is also the strange location and position of the rib cage, which is at an upwards angle, plus both sides of the rib cage match both with the male and female body. All things considered, there was a missing left rib on all male of the previous Earth species, compared to the marked and noticeable mirror imaging between both genders, plus the more marked changes for the hip bones as a whole, which sits differently upon the leg bones, markedly different than the old Earth bone structure. With this, as well as other changed, the most noticeable of them all is the weight of these new Earth bones compared to the old ones, and the full picture can be seen from this if you compare each bone, if possible. By mainly looking, you can see that the bones are clearly different in thickness and possibly in strength. With these strange events occurring and being documented, possibly in some government building somewhere being researched, I wouldn't put it past the government to do such things as this. As for the CERN project itself, there is a lot of talk and speculation over the purpose of the CERN Hadron Collider. Of everything, many believe that the CERN project itself was really for creating a small pocket of space between time and basically before the creation of the universe. Which leads to the now controversial and honestly hotly debated topic of them opening very small localized portals into other parallel worlds, summoning evil demons, and also hotly debated that its primary function is to look for the unknowable energy source such as dark matter. As with all these advances within science, I know that this will and is changing the way everyone thinks about the universe, the human species, and ourselves as individualistic thinking people, and to fully find where we all fit within this large and quite uncharted puzzle of this place. It is just as intriguing would be the animals of specific species that previously didn't exist in the previous planet due to the extinction event of a comet that hit planet Earth millions of years ago. And yet, as evidence to refute the fact of an extinction event, these animals are as such living in the deep ocean, and presumably even other species and places on the world. However, with this, another theory is once more built upon the others. This may be the fourth reality, which most of us as a species were moved spiritually to a new Earth with stark similarities to our own. We achieved what we had set out to do, and had been given the gift of enlightenment by travelling spiritually to another planet in 2012. Our original planet is currently going through what we may call trial and tribulation. The countless others that ignored the answers directly in front of them, they are currently going through their own personal hell and trials, as because they didn't take the path that was made for them by the light workers and other light beings. They must go through the path of enlightenment on their own now, with no help from the outside universe. Hopefully, they will follow the clues and the notes that we have left for them to help them clear the way during the end of the old ways of the third dimension and into the new and beautiful surprises of the fourth. If there is supposed to be a meaning upon this planet, and that meaning is clearly not yet known to us at this present time. However, I believe that people are beginning to realize the beauty of the planet and what it has to offer as a whole experience of exploring the planet and enjoying the natural beauty of the world. In its simplest and most breathtaking form, this planet has the very best in what could be considered a natural stage, from the high rocky mountains that can dominate much of the landscape in surrounding continents to the beautiful serenity of freshwater lakes, surrounded by lush green forests that have stood the test of time for millions of years. These can lead to the breathtaking landscapes which we find not only the best self-reflection of our inner selves and of all our tribulations, but also the representation of the human species as a whole when compared with nature itself and our intimate relationship within these grounds. True, with many of these places, we as a species have failed at being respectful to the natural beauty of the planet without so-called non-cleanness towards the earth, without pollution and our manufactured world we have created for ourselves. Thus, in many cases, the world is not entirely ready or was expecting our attitude towards the natural world as a whole, which in today's world, because of our natural thought of expansion of our horizons, that we are continuously putting our mind before our heart, we realize that we are chopping many forests that have been around possibly for millions of years due to the rather blatant and blinding intrusion of so-called progress. This is our fault entirely, for we are beginning to see that the natural world is in many cases the fault of our progress as a species. But do we really need more and more space? Why can't we use our heads more economically and reuse old buildings? Yes, I understand that would be a costly restoration in many cases, but wouldn't that be a better to place more effort into the things you love rather than kill off a natural forest that has had a purpose for millions of years? I believe that there are companies that could greatly do this initiative, such as Google or Apple, to name a few, but the main problem that every business takes is obvious. It is the risk factor that causes many of the blockades and the boundaries with which companies believe they shouldn't cross. If a business deems it is not in the terms of cost effective, then the company will possibly go as far as to deny the intention of the idea's originality, even before they take a look at the portfolio. In other cases, if such places and programs within the company is deemed as outdated to the point of slight inefficiency, then I am no longer surprised by the idea of that company cutting out that particular outdated area of the company without even reconsidering to rework it into the modern age of technology. And evidence of those ideas of the original idea in one form or another. Thus, many people lose their jobs, and it is in the current market to be ever more difficult to search for the one job that you wish to follow and find. And yet people still have the right to believe they can complain about the jobless on benefits when it is in itself the industrial engine that powers the world that it is at fault for its own destruction in the first place. There is going to consistently be people who are cut off this engine as they are deemed obsolete in more than usually one way. The funny thing is, the whole industry is actually obsolete in itself. It is only a matter of time when that idea of out of date reaches a different area of the machine, as new parts are immediately replaced for every obsolete piece. This, in terms of a way of picturing the industries of the world, is at a glance an accurate representation of the difficulty of finding a new job. Because the machine is constantly changing, then you would be led to believe that the actual mechanisms to work the machine internally would change as well. And yes, that is correct. If it is difficult to use an outdated piece of technology, as the technology of its previous owners advance, you wouldn't want to use a typewriter when you could use a laptop, would you? So, in that regard, the modern industry can create itself and reinvent itself as it kills itself, which means we have created a man-made, naturally changing machine that can effectively shape itself into almost any economically available situation across the world, which is fluid like water. And that, I believe, is mankind's greatest hidden but obvious achievement of industry all around the world. However, there are places in the world where the industry and the natural world would greatly respect and work with each other, and there is no other better place to show this action as an example than China. It is economically as advanced as it is naturally, which is unique and rather humbling thought in itself. This shows that if it's possible to be at one with the natural order of things, plus make technological advancements into other forms of industry without the blind disregard for nature surrounding the place. Everything about the country is entirely focused upon the balancing of technology, yet remaining in a good relationship with the natural world, something I believe every country in its own rights should learn and prosper from. Plus, I entirely understand that there would be constraints such as where the industries are based, as the environment is different and extremely varied across the world. So too would be the rules for a symbiotic relationship between technology and nature. Time is another constraint, as I believe that the many companies wouldn't wish to waste their time in doing such work, mainly because they believe it would take a considerable amount of time and effort. In other words, it would cost them more money to strategically become more economical and efficient than they would currently be. Once again, this is the problem with a machine. It all comes down to money. Money is the main ingredient to why the machine can exist in the first place. But it could also be its own downfall by what the economy is based for, that term in this year. And that is correct. The economy is essentially the heartblood of all companies across the world. Without a good standard of economy, we have seen advances in technology and in specific countries such as Africa and Spain to have slowed or almost stopped completely. Yes, there is still advances in technology, but the rate at which they are generated efficiently and to be good quality of impact upon the nation it is effectively implemented upon can have a detrimental impact upon the country and the surrounding ones as a whole, and thus, for each individual economy each possesses, this then creates a global economy for the world. The global economy is essentially a monster in the field of industry. This is what could launch a company into the dizzying heights of well-known names, such as Google or Apple, or it could be destroyed by itself and the economy, the business either never making it into the global market or falling apart after years of operation. This is why I presume why many businesses are rather cautious about implementing new ideas into their original design. It is all about risk in the world of business, I have heard. So it always begs the question as if it is the perfect idea, and if it has been proven to work in the economy globally and successfully, then why, with all of that evidence, are people still contemplating the worst or not? I believe this is something worth to point out and to think about for the time being. I am Maxwell White, and that small topic was brought to you by me. Thank you. I'd love to hear what you've been thinking. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And yeah, see you soon with another topic. Stick around.